Events in the Anambra state over the past 7 years have increasingly lent credence to former Governor Peter Obi's preference for Chief Willie Obiano as his successor, despite the spate of discontent and malcontent variously spawned by aides and episodic apologists of the two political icons, which their tributes are enabled and amplified by the seemingly limitless permissiveness of the social media space. It is beyond contestation that Obi's success as a two-term governor on the platform of the All Progressive Grand Alliance APGA, his partnership with religious bodies and other institutions, and the kindred spirit bonding the Anambra electorate with APGA guaranteed Obiano the governor's seat on March 17, 2014, when he was first elected. APGA's growing welcome rating as the People's Party was apparent in the relative ease of Obiano's victory during the November 2013 governorship election, juxtaposed with the palpable anxieties that marked Obi's second term bid in February 2010 and Obiano's unprecedented second term trouncing of other parties' candidates in the November 2017 poll. Not inclined to obvious frivolosities, Obi would not gamble with the fate of his stewardship in Anambra State. He painstakingly made his choice of a successor among the eminently qualified aspirants, some of who at different points were willingly cajoled into acting the exalted position, having wrongly interpreted Obi's decoy that seemingly favored them at such points. But Obi did not buckle. He tarried until the choice he considered best and impeccable was made in Obiano, who, being mentally sound, urban, and sure-footed, suffered none of the traumatic overtures that wreck other aspirants' ambition. Given Obiano's unwavering commitment to the development of Anambra State and the well-being of his people, which became manifest from the seminal inaugural speech that set him racing against time in providing security and a vibrant economy for the people, he became readily endeared to the populace. His returning an unprecedented victory in the entire 21 local government in the November 2017 election was a clear endorsement of his innovative and impactful mode of governance. That enviable feat would, however, spare him no less envy from a handful of sour distractors. But it has been victory for Indy, Anambra all the way, in security, barring the prevailing heightening anxiety across the nation, education, healthcare, job creation, socio-political bridge building, physical infrastructure, statutory institutions of government, humaneness, and so on. Anambra under Willie Obiano is spectacular. He has ensured that he builds on the consciousness of a good governance which Obi inherited from Dr. Chris Ngige. His driving mantra of expanding the frontiers of good governance by envisioning Anambra as the first choice investment destination and a hub for industrialization and commercial activities, and going ahead to create a stable and business-friendly socio-political environment where indigenous and foreign entrepreneurial minds seek wealth-creating opportunities stand him out ahead of his predecessors. The depth and spread of Obiano's attainment as governor of Anambra leave a greater legacy impression than his predecessors combined ever did. Talk of the construction of the now aspiring Anambra International Cargo and Passenger Airport, the imposing International Conference Center, the three strategic flyovers in the capital city, the strategic bridges and roads opening up erstwhile hard to reach extremities of the state, which, though largely constituting the poorest of the poor population, are richly endowed with wealth creating potentials. Fate probably chose to institutionalize Obiano with these astounding visible achievements as compensation for the huge energies he has expended in the intangible, humane side of governance, where he has silently championed the wellness of many, shunning the lures of mass publicity. Beyond the easily verifiable crucial imports of Obiano's administration in Anambra geopolitical space, the greatest of Obiano seems to be unraveling in the interest it takes in his succession. This leaves no one in doubt of his utmost dedication to the growth of Anambra state beyond his stewardship. knowing fully well the avoidable intrigues and pains, physical, fiscal, and psychological, people are subjected to the dynamics of unruly electioneering. The governor has shown unprecedented honesty in boldly lending his hands to his heart in the preference for his successor. Unlike his predecessor, Obiano would not allow sustained speculations about where his interest lies. He does this without insisting on compliance from whoever still wishes to contend with his position. Obiano's understanding of statecraft and his determination to ensure that Anambra State takes a jolt to development heights like never before in the next dispensation are instrumental in his unequivocal preference for Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo as his successor. Obiano would not shrink the responsibility of providing ethical leadership beyond the conventional practice of leaders slying, playing aloof, and non-committal at a point when their actions should point the way to go. Honestly, in leadership, like Chief Obiano manifests in his declared preference for Soludo, tolerates deliberate brash antagonism from those not inclined to the projected position. Of course, this tendency is not in short supply in the scenario now playing out in the Anambra APGA, but Governor Obiano being focused on his target does not seem by any means hindered. But for the deliberate fair, for wind goes chase probably, who should fought Solido's edge over every other governorship aspirant in APGA in this age. Credible signs indicate that the pressure about who wins APGA primary is heavily induced from outside influences who are already feeling intimidated by the thought of Solido flying APGA ticket. They would rather instigate and fan discomforting embroilingos in APGA, fold hoping to weaken the party's chances at the November 6 poll by either scuttling Soludo's chances at the primary poll, thereby having APGA present a less formidable candidate, or by furthering sustained sponsorship of internal conflict in APGA to weaken the party's chances at the poll, irrespective of who fly its flags. Knowing the character of these outside influences, it is safe to conclude that the obvious financial bait for some persons at different rungs of APGA hierarchy might be too alluring for their rash integrity to prevail. The APGA hierarchy therefore needs an in-house integrity check and morale boost as the primary election approaches, lest the underhand acts of willful traitors or disgruntled fellows subvert the noble cause of the governor and core APGA patrons stand for. It is more in succession that a success of an acceptable regime rests. Else, the gains of the past might just be brought to naught by some ruinous slips traceable to naivety, ignorance, cheap capitulation, to negative influences, or even outright avarice by wrong persons chancing upon state power and treasury. Governor Willie Obiano has shown glaring capacity in providing leadership by pointing the way forward. It behoves APGA and indeed Anambra to hearken unto his clarion call to tread the proven path to a greater Anambra state. Without doubt, Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo's presence in the contest afoot pales the chances of other aspirants if the intention of the APGA primary exercise is solely sourcing one who will win the main election and wholesomely attend to the well-being of Anambra and its people.